Hey everyone, welcome to The Root Cause. We have another guest today, and our guest works at Cursor, the AI code editor that has taken uh, developer community by storm and is one of the most talked pieces of software out there in the industry. Mohit runs user operations there, and he joined just a few months back, which means he sits with users every day and sees what people are actually building with Cursor. Uh, and one very interesting fact about Mohit is he doesn't have a computer science degree. He never has been formally trained as an engineer. He is self taught, and he is, again, inside one of the most important AI companies in the world right now. So, welcome, Mohit. Welcome to the root cause. How are you feeling?
Feeling great. Thank you so much for having me. Super exciting to be here and like talking about all things AI and Cursor. A small correction, like I'm part of like a around like pretty good capable people like at Cursor. I'm part of the user operations team. I'm personally a technical support engineer, and as you rightly mentioned, it's like I don't have a computer science degree background, but yet I'm a engineer now, right? On paper. So I think it's quite interesting, and it's just like it's been super inspiring and magical for me that someone like me also can make myself sort of technical without having those sort of backgrounds. And it's incredibly uh, interesting that companies are also open to these sort of like candidates and like open to like hire you on the basis of like not just qualifications but like just merit and whatever you have learned on the in your career journey, right? Like so for me that has been like super interesting. But once again, thanks for having me. Super excited for the chat we are going to have.
Awesome. Mohit, one thing, it's a very obvious question what my audience would be wondering about. You don't have a computer science degree and not formally trained. So, how did it happen? Can you talk about your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I think like again a lot of things starts early, right? Like so for me, I think back in when I was in ninth or tenth grade itself, I had this whole phase of like, oh man, this I got my first laptop and like I started playing Road Rash like any child should do. And then eventually it started going towards directions of like, okay, this is interesting. I can make a Hello World HTML, which was taught to me in computer science class, right? Then it goes to a point where my Android phone stopped working, and I was like, okay, I don't know. I took it to the service center. They had no answers, right? And that was the time when like Stack Overflow and all of those things were like up there. I was like, you know what? There's no way I'm buying another 6,000 rupee phone. There's no way my parents are gonna let me. Let me see if I can do anything. And then I connected my phone to the laptop, and then like all those like at that time rooting was a thing. Like all those like there were weird sketchy sites where you can like kind of jailbreak your phone and like do very questionable things to them, right? Like and then that kind of got me into that. I was like, damn, I repaired my phone, and that was just by like going to some sites, installing some very weird SDKs, and it worked out, right? Like for me, I think that was the first time. And then somehow in the middle I was just like, okay, maybe computer science, nah, I'm still very interested in this, but commerce seems like the way to go. And I was also naturally like into finance at that time, so felt like that was the right call. However, I think like the technical part of like those things like the debugging and like just trying to find the how much can you expand this technical limitations, right, of your device, and kind of got me interested. And I've always like, even when I was doing all these commerce things, I have like probably I have 7 accounts on freecodecamp.org, which was like my go-to site to like start learning how to code back in the time, right? So I was trying to learn how to code, but it just was never either accessible enough for me, not easy enough for me. I used to get demotivated because I don't have the qualification, right? But then something super magical happened last year where I was working with this company at the time called Chomp, and then we were going to like ship some marketing campaigns. And the engineering, of course, we had our bandwidth limits, and they were focusing much more on the app and everything. There was like a need of like sort of a custom built dashboard, but for marketing and growth reasons, right? And I was like, okay, I've been hearing a lot about these AI tools on Twitter and everywhere. Maybe I can try it. And then I started trying, and oh boy, it was a surprise, right? Like I was like, it took me a couple of days. It took me like a couple of like good dollars of burning just to like get the basics right. But eventually, cut to a week down, we were able to ship out like a entire microsite which had proper API connected to our backends, proper like, and basically any of our 5,000 users could go in there, check their standing in the leaderboard. So it was like a truly pivotal, or like I would say magical experience for me, that I have always imagined that I was limited by my, let's say, qualification or like just lack of knowledge to be able to ship something which is like, sort of, let to say, production grade. So I think that was kind of a turning point for me, that okay, I think we are at a future where at least some important work can also be delivered by using this, so to say, vibe coding AI tools, right? And this was earlier last year. So since then I had, like, of course, a natural inclination towards like, damn, let me see how much more can this go. And of course, as the model kept getting better, as the products and like all these tools got better, for me, I started feeling like there are very few limitations now, right? Like, the probably like limitation is just imagination and my credit card limits, right? Like, depending on how much the tokens are going to charge me. So then, yeah, I spent like a good 6 months in just generally understanding AI. Like, I did try to understand the theory, but at some point I realized, like, let me try to get the use cases and like, deployments right, rather than like the theory itself. So probably if you still even today ask me like, okay, what exactly happens when I put a prompt in, let's say, GPT, and what happens at the back end, I might not be able to answer that very well. But at the same time, okay, do I know how to prompt better? What kind of gets better responses and able to like, help me with the work? The answer is probably yes, right? So that was the later half of last year where I was like, okay, experimenting with all this. And then I think somewhere in January I was like, okay, I have got this AI fever. I really just need to, kind of be part of something which is at the forefront of something so revolutionary. And I used to use Cursor a lot back in the time also. I In the starting I found it like very daunting, because again, it was in a very IDE sort of a framework. It was like a lot of files, a lot of context overload for me at that time. But then slowly, and as the app itself has progressed so much, it made me feel like this tool is super powerful, right? Like, like having more control can be incredibly powerful for me. And that's what inspired me, that okay, I love this company, let me see if I can find my way in, right? So in January, what I started doing was like trying to assess like, okay, what my skills are, what my knowledge is, what my experience is, versus what could Cursor potentially need, and what do I like doing, right? Like, at that Venn diagram of like five different priorities, I found in the center like maybe something between the users and engineering sounds like good to me, where I get to be part of the technical team, but also it's not like on me to deploy some code, right? Like, so I think I started spending a lot of time on Cursor Forum, which, by the way, if people on like here are listening, Cursor Forum is an incredible tool for people to find support. A lot of communities stays there and like kind of shares their workflows and help each other out, right? Like, so I started spending a bit of time there, and I was like, okay, this is what I need. Like, I started going through a lot of these posts, made like a nice little deck sort of a thing out of whatever I think could be automated, could be better, how we can moderate this better. And then I just shot my shot with like a cold email to the CEO. And then I think eventually one thing led to another, and they liked the whole uh, analysis which I had done. Later, I realized like most of it was already done in the company, by the way, right? Like, it was me from an outsider point of view, which who did not have enough context. But the whole point, I think, was that okay, I was giving them something, and they could see like this person is probably passionate about this work itself. And yeah, that's how Cursor happened. They hired me uh, earlier in February, and it's been amazing ever since. It's been almost 3 months, but it feels like at Cursor we keep saying like it's been years, Cursor years. So 3 months have been like incredible. Got to learn so much. We have already pushed out so many new things. The interface itself has completely changed from when I joined Cursor to now, which says so much about like the rate of shipping, right? Like, when I joined, there was like a one single sort of like an ID. Now we have like a another interface, like agent window. So, and then automations, and then cloud agents. So it's incredible. It's super. Yeah. So
It
that's
is.
like my short, long answer of like how I reached here, where am I coming from, etc.
It is inspiring, Mohit. Actually, a lot of folks wonder, uh, if I do not have technical skills, will I be part of a technical setting in a company? I think things are changing drastically, and it opens up a different kind of vertical, uh, where your skills are more valuable than your degrees. right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, to be very honest, I do wanna believe in the fact that this was always the case, but I think with the, like Twitter and all these incredible resources, we have to learn more and like how to find uh gateways to like people's inbox. I think it has become a bit more easier. I Again, I would like to believe that this was always the case, that degrees did not matter, but yeah, I for sure, like, it has changed, right? Like, people are not emphasizing enough on degrees, of course, in like some very specific domains, and like there are niche circles where the degree is definitely helpful and still useful. But at the same time, I do feel like there is a real opportunity here for, at least as an individual, like even if you are not thinking from company point of view, as an individual, you should remove that limitation you have on yourself, that okay, I did BA economics in college, can I like still not join some of these best technical companies in the world? I think that removing that limitation is definitely a step one, right? Like, because we have access to all the best AI coding models, we have access to just general LLMs who are able to teach us things. Like, you can ask it like how to build a rocket or something, and be like, okay, now explain, like I'm 15, then like 10, then like 5, right? Until you really get to a point of like, okay, I think I understand the basics now. So I think for anyone to have a limited mindset of my degree does not allow me to apply for this job is sort of like a bad thing. I really think like you should do a honest check with yourself, that okay, it does not mean to say that if I see a CTO position at like the best company, I apply there, right? But at the same time, if I see something which is like, okay, can I really learn it? Can I really excel in this job? And if the answer comes to be like a yes, then start training towards it. Then you do like the whole, how do I benefit to them and show them my sort of like value before even joining them, right? Like, I think for me, that was the forum analysis approach. For different companies, it could be different, right? Like, I could imagine a world where it's like, let's say I'm a marketing guy, I would just go to your Twitter, I would check out your last 50 posts, I would be like, okay, how can I use like this Higgs field and like the best AI video creation tools, and give you like five media assets, and say that, hey, I did this without you paying me. Imagine what can I do if you pay me, right? Like, for me, I think that proof of work sort of part of the application has become super important. uh, if you don't have the necessary background or degree, so to say. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. What does a typical Tuesday look like to you, Mohit?
uh yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of my work always has to do around with like user queries. Like, I'm part of the forum team, I'm also part of like the email support system we have ongoing, and sometimes occasionally social media support, right? So I think for us, a lot of it is like, okay, is there any, for example, like when I imagine my daily day, it's like, okay, again, to plug in cursor automations and cloud agents here, I have an automation running which goes through our company Slack channel, which goes through like a couple of other dashboards, and just gives me like a daily digest, which is like the first thing I see every morning, that okay, has there anything been like significant since I went to bed last night, right? Like, did we have any sort of like a new release? Did we have some sort of a policy change? Did we have some sort of like a could be just error rates in particular part of the system, whatever, right? Like, so that just preps me for the day, and then I go about my day by like looking at all these different customer portals we have, like the email support and like forum, and just like trying to unblock the user as much as possible, right? A big part of being a technical support engineer and cursor, I used to think that would be okay, I reply to this customer and it ends there, right? Like, or I try to like file a linear bug and it ends there. But I think it's been incredibly uh, powerful being in this position, because we are not limited at this point by just like reply to the consumer and reach out to the engineering. No, if you want and if you have the idea skills, you're free to like ship whatever workflows, you're free to ship whatever automations you think will make the job better. There is no unnecessary approval matrix of sorts, right? A lot of like culture is like, okay, why don't you ship this and we'll see how it goes, as long as we are very sure that this is not impacting our customers, right? Like, at least for internal purposes, we are very like uh, supportive of that sort of a culture. So for me, like, a Tuesday can involve like I'd get done with that part of my job, which is to deal with the customers, and then it's also like, okay, am I identifying any sort of general patterns today which I did not find the last week or like yesterday, right? And then can I do something to help this make better? For example, to if I'm seeing a increased sort of an error rate from, like, okay, these particular users from this particular network configuration are not able to use cursor as well. So okay, what can I do here? Of course, one idea is go to engineer and be like, hey, can we fix this? But again, I think that is like just step one, right? Like of what you can do as at cursor. Or even if any other company who uses like one of these AI tools or even cursor with like, what you can do is like what I would do if I see this now, like I'll ask cursor that, okay, why is this happening? Do you see a common pattern across these multiple user reports? And then cursor will be like, how about we ask them to like run a network diagnostics, right? Like just to get that piece fixed. And then I'll do that, and then maybe the consumer will reply, no, it all seems fine. So now we have ruled that out. It's probably not like this has happened. And then at one point we identified like a particular antivirus software was just doing like a minor change to something we were doing on the IDE setting, and that was like blocking a couple of users, right? And we did not need engineering help to sort of identify that, right? Like it just reduces their bandwidth at the same time making us feel so powerful that it's just such a, it used to be conventionally such a big blocker that every single query has to go through our engineering eyes and like then get reviews, and then probably a hotfix will get pushed or something. But now we are at a world where it's like, okay, if you are confident about what you have identified, just start communicating it out to the users. Let's unblock them as fast as possible, right? So I think for me, yeah, the three different parts are like user queries, workflows, and then just debugging on like identified patterns.
Makes sense. This has the shift has been amazing actually, with the use of agentic tooling and the overall explosion of AI that has happened in past 2 years have drastically changed a lot. Uh, Roles are being, questioned now whether or not some roles are actually relevant anymore. Are you also seeing that shift in terms of who will be responsible to do what, or is it all getting mingled now?
Oh, well, I think first of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that definitely AI has been shifting the industry, right? Like to be on the either side that AI has completely transformed and we don't need employees anymore, and to the side where nah, we still need everyone, right? Like I think I am somewhere in the middle where it's like, yeah, definitely AI has impacted like how we are seeing jobs now or how hiring has been taking place, and I think it's incredibly like it would be just very ignorant to say that AI has changed nothing, right? For example, like copywriting, like one of those things, right, where maybe a company used to need 50 of them for their different push notifications, and that's probably not done by 50 people anymore, and it's by 5 people, right? Probably even like my personal role, which is like a support role, a lot of companies probably have very intelligent chatbots, very intelligent systems in place, and then that reduces like you needing like, let's say, 1,000 support people to like, let's say, 200 people, right? So one, like, yes, there's definitely a change in how the hiring or like just the quantity of hiring which has been taking place, right? But at the same time, I do feel like there's been a lot, like it's sort of like I do believe in the Jevons paradox in the sense that, yeah, when we increase some capabilities, there's also a increased output, which also means increased consumption, which also means like increased need of human labor in that sense. So I would like to be cautiously optimistic and be believe a believer of that. uh, but I think like, yeah, to answer that, I would say hiring has changed, but we still do need a lot of humans in the loop. There's a lot of judgment. Like there's a recent conversation about the whole taste, right? Like, so I think that matters. You can give like, I have made like a council of AI agents myself, right? Like to man steal, like to somehow like steal man a certain idea. But like at the same time, at the end of the day, sometimes the answer is like, okay, AI told me to do this. Like seven LLM models fought against each other to give me this idea, but I still don't think that's the best idea, right? I would do like a different thing. Maybe it's inspired from what LLM suggested, but it will be a different thing. So I do feel like there's always like some part of human judgment to be played in things like this, because if you ask AI, it would be like, yeah, why don't you make your site into like 200 languages in the world so that every SEO is like optimized and like, oh, everything is like, but at the same time, is that the best business decision for you to make? We don't know, right? Like, so I think that's how I see it. Like, yeah, like the hiring itself also definitely has changed in the sense that you are expected to do more, but I think that's a good thing, right? Like it does not like, if I have the tools, if I have the skills, if I have the knowledge and I'm not limited by it, I don't think it's unfair for the employer also to be expecting a bit more, right? Like you can't be held, like you can't expect to be not held accountable to where the world is going, right? Like that would be like you bring a typewriter to a company who's asking you to get MacBooks, right? Like because again you believe in typewriters, sure, but like then it's better off if you find a typewriter kind of a job, right? Like but at the same time you just gotta stick with it and run with it alongside.
Makes sense. Do you think there is a limit where AI falters? I'll tell you one instance that personally happens with me is I used to write 3 pages when I had to write an email. First a rough draft, second a refinement of that, and then a final draft. Then I used to send it. Now I'm getting so lazy that I use any kind of AI tool to help me generate the emails. Do you think it's getting to a point where we are using AI for thinking itself, which is a like the most appropriate human trait that we should be taking forward?
Again, I think like we bowed down to the algorithmic overlords long back to even discuss this now, right? Like if we are thinking that it took LLM for us to stop thinking, I think like kind of like started decaying in that thought process long back, even before the LLMs came in, because just like like all these social media which kind of influences how we think and all of that, right? Like so firstly, like I think we have already been influenced to like, I don't know, not think so much from first principles, not think your original thoughts. You think it's original, but you probably got an idea from somewhere else, right? Like, so I think the programmatic like evolution of that thought process started like a bit before that. But yeah, for sure, like I do think that we have, like for me also, like personally, like first thing I do as soon as I receive a email or anything complex is like, okay, this is what I think, but let me also like go through an LLM and like kind of see what it says about this, right? And then I take a judgment call of like, okay, which is better. And I would be lying if I say that sometimes the I just copied and like what the LLM gave me I put it in the right. But at the same time it's like there were enough and more examples of it being the other way around too, right? Like where I saw the LLM response and I was like, nah, this does not sound good, right? Like there's no reason I have to give them a 40 line answer when I can just them tell them like a simple answer, right? Like so I think the whole taste judgment still creeps in. But to answer your like point shortly, I do think it's gonna make us lazy but also efficient, right? Like so it's like one of those weird trade-offs that okay, it's making me lazy but also it's making me so efficient, right? Like so I think at the end it just comes down to you as a person, like kind of being mindful about like, okay, how much of it am I making it do, and am I still like, am I being a kind of just a blind, like am I its employee or the employer, right? Like the LLMs. So I think that kind of a thing, like am I just listening to what it asks me to do and does I just do it, or am I training it to like be my assistant that, hey, like make this better, no you did not get this right. So I think that sort of a mental shift is definitely important.
Awesome. I wanted to segue towards what do you see in users when you're interacting with them? I'll frame a question, and then I think you will get the theme what I wanted to ask. It is, uh, how does a user interact with cursor that would surprise the public? What you're seeing something different, because see, typically it happens most often is you write a doc and there is certain way you have built tools to be used, but you see people using it in a different way, and that grooms the product ultimately. But what's something that you saw recently in your conversations that surprised you and will surprise my
Yeah,
audiences?
yeah, I think like one great thing about being working with all these user queries and everything is like at the end, of course, you can blame the user for not checking the documentation, or you can blame the user, hey, how did you not find this toggle button here, right? But at the same time, I think every single query we receive, at least we try to like think of it as like, is it a documentation problem? Is it a problem of like product? Is it a problem of onboarding? Is it a problem of like just social media awareness, right? Like it ideally will fall into one of these buckets, right? Like, no, you can't blame the user, right? Like, it's not that user works in your company and has context or is on Twitter all the time or just needs to know everything. So at the end, I think everything has to be like sort of intuitive in that sense, in some way or the other. It could be a awareness problem or like just product onboarding problem or product problem, right? So once we like graduate from that thinking, I think personally what I have noticed, like every time there is like a big change in the whole platform itself, it becomes like, oh, like recently we went from like just that IDE window to like an agent window, right? And initially it was a big change for users and a lot of like queries regarding that, oh, why did this happen? And then slowly users get acquired to it once you explain to them enough that what are the advantages of this particular interface, right? So I think for me it's always interesting to see that gap in a way, which is like, and it comes from a sense of like understand that, okay, again, I have this much context, not everyone has, right? So I think I have found like a lot of those things where between tech bro circle and Indranagar, they are all probably talking about like, yeah, this is the automation you should be doing, cloud agent. But there's a guy out there who's like, hey, agent is saying that it's sonnet when it's actually opus, right? Then you have to make that user understand, hey, it's because like sometimes the LLMs don't know their own identity, they could be wrong, right? Like they work in a different, it's not deterministic, they probably are not as self-aware as you would like to think. So it might be still opus, but it might say sonnet because it was trained on a certain data, etc., right? Like, so I think that for me has been very like interesting to see like what the, I wouldn't want to call it a gap. It's just like catching up, right? Like in a way that now they have to understand that this is how LLMs function. And we are still super early in how people understand these AI models, right? Like there's this side of people who might think that it knows everything about the world and it has answer to all key questions. But also there's a other side that LLMs don't know everything. They are capable of like making mistakes. They are just as, like it's not deterministic, like the right word to say. For me, like I think that has been interesting just to see that sort of like gap, right? And when we talk about like a bit more advanced and experienced users, even then I have been seeing now like people who have been working in the industry for a long time might be shipping a tool or like a feature which is incredibly complex and all of those, like it's just too technical heavy, and I could be probably reaching out to them saying, hey, but have you tried like a cloud agent, have you tried like switching from an API to a cloud agent, or like some sort of intelligence layers between API things which you are doing. And that somehow magically changes their output, that, oh wow, we did not know this was possible, right? Like, to give a small example, like recently I was interacting with someone and they had something to do with like, hey, our linear says this is gone from in progress to done, and then we let others know that this is done. But sometimes, so linear can do that much, and I'm pretty sure there's like linear AI tools out there, not to like talk on behalf of them, but at the same time, now with cloud agents and cursor automations, there is an intelligence layer you can put in between them, that once a linear status changes, then you put a prompt saying that, see which PR got merged, check your code base, did it actually fix the issue it was like it was raising in the first place, right? Like, so that intelligence layer has come in now. For me personally, like I have been using it with my customers all the time. When I check linear tickets, I'm like, okay, did this actually solve this user's problem, or am I just letting them know this is fixed without it actually unblocking them, right? Or is there like an additional step I have to do? So for me, I think that's interesting that there have been like just this new sort of a perspective to how you can solve a problem, right? Like by adding that intelligence layer to your existing API calls, existing dashboards, and kind of just making it so much better. So I think for the advanced users, that's what I've been seeing. They get incredibly surprised when we say something like, hey, we get it that you have a dashboard and then you do a manual review. Have you tried also just putting an LLM triage into it? Like give them one more layer of like intelligence and then you make a manual call, right? Like again, human in the loop is always important, and like there are some very critical pieces where it should be the default too. But I think it just has enabled like one more layer of intelligence for a lot of these people who were like, okay, I'll make the automation and then I will still be the one doing the intelligence part of it. But I think at this point we can also like sort of outsource some level of intelligence to these LLM tools, which has been super interesting to me.
One of the things to blame on Cursor is they are shipping so fast that it becomes difficult for developers or engineers to keep up with that. So every week, if you are releasing a new feature, uh, we need time to adapt to some things.
Oh, we take a week to release a feature. That's sad. I think we are doing it much faster than that. I'm pretty sure there are like at least three features being pushed out in a week. But I get that, right? Like, definitely it is tough to keep up and it's tough to catch up. Bit of a segue, but also like what I like to relate it back in the time around 2019, before this whole AI thing happened. I read a book by Yuval Noah Harari, which was 21st 21 problems for the 21st century, and in that, one of the key themes this author kept speaking, kept talking about, was like how in our generation we need to keep on adapting ourselves again and again and again, right? Like, there was a past where my dad can work in the same bank for like 20 years in the same role and still be happy and everything is good, right? I Unfortunately, I don't think we are in that world anymore, right? Like, it's at the end of the day, it is on us to like kind of adapt ourselves and just keep up with all of these. And again, I think there needs, it's like news, right? Like, there's like 500 news article every day, but are you going to concern yourself with 500 news article every day? No, you are probably going to look at like the 10 which actually matters to you, about your local municipality, about your stuff,
Out
right?
of those 500, 400 could be AI generated. So filtering
Yeah,
the signal from noise also is getting difficult.
it is getting difficult, but I think that is the important skill, right? Like, now those are the kind of skills we need to adapt in this career. That, okay, how, if I see like 20 new fundraising announcements every day from a different AI company, am I gonna test all of these tools out? Probably not, right? Like, still take a step back. Like, even in the context of Cursor, right? As you said, we probably ship like multiple features in a week, but I think it's always important, like, okay, does this actually something which is directly impacting me now? Do Should I really fully immerse myself in it? And if the answer is a straight up no, then it's fine. Like, you don't have to bother yourself that, right? Like, update, go ahead with your regular workflows. But
I,
just
I
good to keep in
often
mind.
go, yeah, I often correlate it with one of the uh, like things we used to do earlier. Let's say I had to download a game from a sketchy website. Finding that download button, just based on my judgment, was something we used to tackle. I think this is what will come in handy when we have to identify signal from
Yeah,
lot of noise.
absolutely. Like, I think I relate there. Like, you find seven different download links, and it's your gut which tells, okay, this is less shinier. This is probably the inherent website one, right? So yeah, I relate there. Like, it has to be that you have to kind of learn how to separate that noise from the signal, as you rightly said.
Makes sense. What's the dumbest or weirdest thing you saw people create with cursor?
Again, I don't think anything is dumb. I think everyone is just finding this as a way to like explore their sort of creativity, right? Like, it's like a inherent sort of bias we have, that we want value out of every software. We want like a lot of net positive. But I think personally, I find it okay to like, if someone has created a website which has, you type a prompt and it will generate a flower, right? Like, and you can maintain that garden. I have seen that project and I find it interesting that, okay, probably this does not solve anything in real life, but it's like, if you give me a canvas and a paint, and if I paint something, it can either be a Van Gogh or nothing, right? Like, so for me, I think I would refrain from calling anything dumb, because I think it's just a sort of like medium of self-expression at this point, right? However, like, there have been like some very funny ones. Like, you won't believe, I was talking to a user and all they wanted was like, every time cursor complete its chat, to make a fa noise, right? Like the Instagram fa noise. And I was like working with this user, like, okay, like, how can we enable this for you, right? Like, it's interesting. It's like, I don't know how this adds a net positive value to your workflow, but it's definitely interesting. And now we have a custom chime sound whenever cursor like completes its chat, right? So you can probably install like a fa audio file to it and be like, every time your code gets like pushed, you can be like fa fa, right? Like, so it's just interesting. Again, I don't think it's dumb. It's just like, people are trying to now use this tool to make their life fun. How can I make it less boring? I know someone who's had a sort of like this tool where every time a meeting is gonna come up, like in 5 minutes or 2 minutes, they will play the breaking news voice of
Hmm.
Arch Stuck, right? Like, Arch Stuck noise they would do, and it's like prepping them for the meeting. So I think it's still like incredibly cool that, okay, people are finding like joy in small things now, that they can do coding without actually knowing how to code. So
I'll try that out today. I
yeah.
love that fast sound after my code is done.
Oh, I tried it. At one 11, I was shipping something and there was a far noise in my bedroom. Trust me, it did not go well. It was like, damn, what is this? So, yeah.
Nice. Any new category of users you are seeing emerging for Cursor, which you did not expect at all? Like developers, engineers are fine, but something that's totally strange for you.
I would actually place myself in that bucket, right? Like, even while joining Cursor, I was like, thinking that okay, this is great, incredible, now I'll work with the users, I'll answer their queries and I'll move on, right? But like now when I'm here, like it's just become like, oh okay, I see like an internal tool we can create here to make this process easier, and then I end up just shipping it, right? And I'm sure like I'm not the only one in this, right? Like there's enough and more people like me across different companies, industries, probably doing the same, that okay, this used to be on our Google Sheets and we used to manually go update it, but can we now like connect it to our Slack channel and like put some automation around it and like auto update it itself, right? Like so I think for me, like this whole category of like, again, as we said, right, like non-degree qualified sort of people who were not computer science graduates or don't have the experience are now able to ship like something which is might not be, again, from a conventional engineering point of view, the best work, like the code is optimized, might not be that, but is it getting the job done? If the answer is yes, I think they are still good, right? Like so I think that definitely is a category of people I find myself falling into, and a lot of my teammates and like people outside who we work with. So I think that has been interesting. um, Other than that, I also think like this has enabled sort of people who, and I think this has been spoken about quite a bit on Twitter and across different companies, but like I think it has been very interesting to see how people who sort of thought they graduated from this IC level to like managers, senior managers, head of like, a department, but now you see and they are also coding and like shipping something, right? Like it's no longer like, hey, let me text my, like the person I was managing, let me text them and ask them to like work on this for the next week. They are themselves on cursors now and like be like, okay, what dashboard will be the best for me to manage my team? So I think for me that shift also is something which has been pretty interesting, that now people are going back to the whiteboard themselves instead of thinking of themselves like, okay, we are only here to manage processes and people and we are not here to really do anything in a way, right? Like, but now they are actually doing, and it's actually making the organization more efficient as a whole. So I think that is also super interesting.
Do you have some stats numbers about the category of users or any kind of personas that you identified who is using Cursor most often versus most least?
Oh, I might not have like the exact like any sort of like figures as such, but I think I can confidently say like Cursor used to be like this tool which only hardcore engineers were using, and like they needed to know a lot of like these, how does the, like a particular Python package works, and then I'll be able to like install it and like all of that. But I think now it has been shifting. I have been seeing like that uh bar go a bit down, that it's no longer like just for like the hardcore engineer. Like as I said right in the beginning of our chat, when I started using Cursor a year ago, I found it a bit intimidating, right? But now in the advancements and everything, I have been like, I have 4,000 transcripts on Cursor, right? Like I have a 12.8 GB transcript file on Cursor, right? So that just goes on to say that if I am someone who was non-technical and have chatted with Cursor 4,000 times, and of course I work here, that's partially it, but also it just shows that there's so much I can gain from it, right? So for me, I think like definitely there's a more inclination of like engineers and like people who are software driven in that sense using Cursor. But at the same time, I think the gap has been coming down. Like increasingly, a lot of non-technical peoples are getting in on it too.
So Mohit, we were talking about various kind of user personas that have been using Cursor, not just developers, but people from other aspects of engineering too. How does it affect a support engineer or technical staff like what you are doing, an SRE or a DevOps person, how they are interacting with it?
Yeah, as I said, like I'm not a coder and I have 4,000 transcripts on Cursor, right? Like, so this is just to say that, okay, so there's definitely some Cursor usage on my end despite not being a coder. So, how I personally have been using it, or like a lot of people in our team and across different companies, different support systems can potentially use it in the future, is that For example, if I'm getting a query from like a particular enterprise customer and then I see that query, my we have a lot of rules skills internally to like kind of put that in cursor, and then thanks to all these crazy mcps out there and plugins out there, even like rubik's cube, right, like kind of helps me like make a story out of whatever the investigation kind of comes up with, right? To give like a walkthrough of how it will look like is that uh, Priyank reached out to me saying that, hey, I have been experiencing increased lag today on my cursor. How what's happening, guys? And then I see this query, I'm like, okay, interesting. Then I put this Priyank query to my cursor and I'm like, we have all these amazing MCPs and plugins, right? Like already in place, rules are already in place. Now we start the investigation that, okay, what's Priyank's role, right? Like, is he part of a team subscription? Where does he stand on that? Okay. Now let's go to, okay, what do we know about his enterprise network configurations, right? Then we check that. Okay, then it goes to a layer of like, let me check all these Rubik's Cube plugins, let me check all these different MCPs we have connected to see, has there been some sort of a network outage, has there been some sort of like reports of people actually showing that it's a repetitive pattern or not, right? So that kind of gives me enough and more context to give you a very personalized answer, right? Like, which is really relevant to Priyank and it's not really relevant to another person who's working in another company, right? Because I can just easily get all these sort of like, it's again at the end of the day we are getting number and text strings from these tools, but cursor is the orchestrator who creates a story out of it. And for me that is incredibly helpful because that helps me tell you, hey Priyank, we noticed that you stay in this region and we noticed that sometimes users on this particular network can get like a slow response. Can you try just checking your mobile hotspot once to let us see if that is exactly the cause or not, right? Like, if I were not using cursor, this would take me like a lot of back and forth with you just to understand, hey Priyank, where are you staying, like what is your like status and all of those things, right? Like, so I think that process has definitely gone from, let's say, three back and forth between us to like the first response I give you is automatically gonna address that, right? So I think that's, I really still think it's underrated how much people are sitting on not using cursor for their support, right? Like, I sometimes interact with all these like companies, I am having some sort of a support problem with this, and they would ask me like the most basic thing like, hey, could you please tell us like if this was the product you're talking about? And I'm like, I wish they had cursor, right? Like, they could go, they would put my phone number at the back and it would automatically fetch why when this person order, like, and it would just give them like the first response would be literally answering my query. But instead now here we are, you are asking me about like which order it is, like what. So yeah, I think support is something I still think like people are sitting on and not using cursor, or like just incredible MCP and plugin. Again, like Rubik's Cube, there's like now Databricks, Datadog, Stripe, all of these like incredible MCP and plugins out there, which just makes your support system so efficient.
Makes sense. I think cursor. So from inside cursor, you are seeing this. I come from an outside cursor perspective, right? We launched Rubik's Cube last year, and one of the most called out features from our users was, I don't want to switch from my IDE to something else. So, can you bring in Rubik's Cube within my workflow? So, we released a plugin for Cursor, and I think it's one of the biggest change users are seeing, and they are really liking it. You, as you said, right, you can investigate infra issues or any SRE related tasks directly from sitting on your cursor, and maybe there is a root cause that got generated, and now you also have your editor so that you can apply those fixes directly. So makes the life much easier.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's what, right? Like, it what used to be a lot of just engineering waiting to hear back from engineering now kind of has come down, right? And this is not to say that we there are a lot of time when we actually still reach out to engineers, but it's just that, okay, maybe in the past it was like 9 out of 10, now it has come down to 3 out of 10. Like, and even if we are going to the engineers, it's already with like very strong investigative data, very strong diagnostic data that, hey, we already figured this much out, we just need your help to figure like the missing part or deploy the fixed part, right? Like, so I think that is what personally we have noticed, or like I have noticed using cursor, add cursor for the support.
You seem very optimistic on the AI impact that is happening. Do you see any downside downsides of AI in the industry, there are like economic ones that everybody is aware of. But other than that, do you see anything AI is impacting?
I would say like like this is because of AI, which might happen, but also I don't genuinely think it's just only the AI to blame, right? Like I think there's a lot, like this is a multi-decade ongoing issue of like education system not able to keep up with the transformations the world is going through. And I think with AI, LLMs, all of these things in the past 5 years, even with my cousins and like even with people I know, I have been like, just because you probably are not from the best college or not in the best place in life, you don't have access to this tools or like knowledge, and that's gonna keep you so away from like the top people who are now at the forefront of this, right? And for me, like as much as I'm optimistic, like that part still like makes me a bit like empathetic towards a lot of people that unfortunately like this is sort of leading to a divide of like, okay, who can get access to these models, who can get access to these knowledge, and there's like a huge substrata of people who are probably not getting access to these knowledge and tools, uh, despite there being like so many good free tools also, despite being there like enough information on Twitter. I still think like so much of, at least in our country, right, like India is still dependent on college, and college are still probably teaching like, I don't know, a very 101, which kind of puts these people at disadvantage from everyone else who's been like either self-learning or has access to better resources. So I feel like that part I always like think about and do feel like a lot of empathy for these users. But yeah, I don't know if I'm like I have any negative emotions towards again the AI itself, right? Like at some point, again, it's being like cautiously optimistic, and also it kind of feeling like we have to just go with these things, right? Like we can't really, we should not be hindering progress or technological innovation just because we think it's gonna like go in a different direction. I think it's important, like there are like enough people out there who are raising some very good concerns about the safety, about like, okay, what happens to the economic part of things, as you said, and I think those conversations are definitely important. But at the same time, I wouldn't be the one to say that, yeah, let's hinder the technological progression just because we don't know where this is going, right? Again, do as much scrutiny, get more government people on board, have more case studies, more research studies, but at the same time, like we should not be hindering progress is what I think. I think life truly finds a way. Again, coming from like a Yuval Noah Harari book, life always has found a way. I'm pretty sure we will. And historically, we have been just doing better and better. And I would like to believe we continue to do that, right? Like maybe it will help me, I don't know, explore my love for chess again after the AGI is here and we are all like probably in a good state. So maybe that, right? Like that's why I'm cautiously optimistic, and I would put a lot more emphasis on like not the AI companies themselves, and they do try to do their best at like safeguarding things and everything, but also like a lot more on like the educational system, a lot more on like just government trying to actually work with these people and then trying to come up with like policies at a much faster rate. Like don't ask people to stop progressing, you should be progressing much faster maybe. So yeah.
One of the points you mentioned was around safety and guardrails. Uh, do you feel there is a limit? So we have been putting code in production for around a year now, pipe coding and putting it. Recently, I was listening to Google launching an identity awareness for, I think it was called Synth ID, if I'm not wrong. So any AI generated images are being flagged and identified with Synth ID. And so, this is an AI generated versus a real image, right? Now, it totally has a lot of concerns and things that we need to take care of. A very weird question to ask, Mohit, but within code, is there a way to flag that fingerprint it is a AI generated code versus human has written it?
Hmm. I think like again, I'm not the best person to speak here on like the technical nitty-gritties of how does like a like I might not be the best person because I have not like personally been like a safety researcher in that regard, but I would still like to believe that like that's where the whole conversation of like taste and like understanding comes into place, right? Like if I'm asking some, like let's say a very veteran professional engineer and asking them to make me a calculator app, they'll probably do it in like a good like 400 lines, something along those lines, like I'm not sure, right? Like but it will be a very neat and optimized version of a calculator app, right? And without anything extra, like there will be no confetti if my answer is equal 2 plus 2 equal to 4, no confetti, right? But it's possible that when I ask llms to do it, or like one of these ai coding tools to use it, that there are like some additional things added which I probably did not ask for, and now the code is like 2000 lines, right? So I think there are like some human ways of like definitely seeing some websites and calling it like, okay, this is probably a ai generated website, right? At the same time, I don't know from like a technical point of view what will be the best case scenario. Also, at some point, I really do feel like the conversation goes to like, do we really need to know if it was AI generated or not, right? Like, we are already seeing companies who are like clocking more than 80% of their code committed on main just using AI assisted coding, right? So, where does this line kind of end? Like, why does the distinction matter, right? Like, what I would probably emphasize more on like is just making sure there are enough safety and guardrails internally from a company point of view, even like a lot of humans in the loop systems, even if like there are like auto generated code and everything going out, so that there is some sort of like hygiene, cleanliness, safety all maintained at quality, so that at the end of the day, even if anything goes wrong, the assumption is that okay, of course it was ai generated code, but okay, who was the one who managed this, right? Like, who built the uh, automation which led to this, right? Like, and then we can go from there to like kind of diagnose the root cause, right? But I still feel like I don't know how much important it is to actually see ai code versus non ai code, like.
But see, the point I was making is, you see lot of news coming up. AI deleted my database or something or the other. We still have to root cause it. Which, let's say, just comparing the AI tools itself, which AI tool I should not be using. The harnessing is not proper. These kind of things should be diagnosed and at least audited well. Uh, don't you think that is important?
Yeah, again, absolutely. Like, I think we still have to be like as careful. Like, I think the point here which you're mentioning does sound really well to me, in the sense that just because the shipping of code has become so easier does not mean you should also ship that carelessly, right? Like, it's not a guarantee of safety, it's a guarantee of like implementation. Now, is this implementation best or not? That's for you to decide. I think like we are definitely not super close to that future right away, that yeah, let's not even like review this thing which ai generator, or let's not even review our practices, let's not design our better workflows. I think the good companies which we are seeing, or like the good teams who are working with ai, do this very meticulously, right? Like, of course, like we have got this very powerful tool in our hands, but again, the like, like if you give hammer, like if the only thing you give a person is a hammer, then everything looks like a nail. So there is like there's enough importance to be given to like, okay, instruct it, guide it, take care of it, like understand what it's giving you, like do enough test trials, right? Like staging and like all those things are still like necessarily precautions we should take. And even while we're dealing with users, we see a lot of time like they will be like, hey, the agent did this, right? But then we again have to re-emphasize, it's up to you, right? Like, are you sure you wanted to run the agent like completely auto run on each, like permissionlessly, right? Like, there's a safeguard in place and cursor also, right? Like, you can allow less certain permissions, you can ask it not to do certain things, and it does a pretty fairly good job. But at the same time, it's not to say that okay, now it's just magical, right? Like, there will never be a problem with your company ever again.
That's I think a problem of marketing. That's how a lot of industry is marketing their products, being magical and uh, doing stuff which will be fully autonomous.
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, I think that's a wider problem of just like attention span and what it takes to like create distribution than customers in this market. That if I now tell you that, hey, my tool has like 93.1% accuracy, the person is like, oh, okay, you missed out on 6.9%. That's like not nice. Everyone just wants like, so I do think like it's definitely overblown, and like there are like a lot of unfortunately uh misleading claims which comes in the picture just because you want some initial traction. But again, I think in free markets everything is a matter of like both user demand and supply. So right, if the user is not gonna listen to you or like work with you when you say 80% uptime and they want 100%, then kind of it's like, you know what, let me just put like a 99.1% uptime and put a star there just for the marketing sake. So I think it's just like a trade-off of the free markets we live in.
Makes sense. All right. We'll move to our last segment, Mohit. And this is where I want to touch up on some things which are very relatable to people, anybody, like jobs, roles, what a human being should be. What's your thought process on that? Let's start with that.
What a human being should be. Man, I really thought I was coming for a tech podcast. Oh, what a human being should.
You're a non tech person, right?
I don't think we should be calling anyone non-tech at this point. Like who,
Yeah,
if
I
like
think let's segue to that then. You brought up a very good point. Does a non technical even a category anymore?
it shouldn't be. Like I have been like fairly advocating against it. Like I mean I do always call myself non-technical, but with the caveat from a point of degree and like
Yeah.
background experience, right? Like that is always a caveat I have put in. Uh, but am I non-technical? Because again, when I was in ninth, I was root like jailbreaking my phones. Oh shit! I probably should not admit it on call, but like I was jailbreaking my phone, and then I was like going to all these sketchy websites, trying to download stuff, and like so. Was I non-technical? No, right? Like that is still a technical part of me. Even now, like now with the AI tools, of course, I have become like 10x technical, right? Like I have started merging PRs, not in the main, but like for our internal dashboards and everything. So I have started like merging PRs now and like raising all these things. So I don't think I'm non-technical. And this also ties into the whole job thing which you were mentioning about that at this point, I think you should not pride yourself if you are calling yourself non-technical. Yeah, yeah, I like non-technical. I'm creative as a person. No, you have to be
That's
technical.
basically limiting yourself because anyways you are not non-technical if you are consuming Instagram, YouTube every day. Uh, you are in that trend. You
Yeah,
should try to think more algorithmically, logically in your thought process, and then code is fungible now. You can generate whatever you want.
absolutely. I think like I agree to your point. Like we stopped becoming non-technical the day when we got this laptop and mobile in our hand, right? Like in that sense, like it goes way back. But now with the advent of all of these extremely incredible tools, I think the leap, like the gap has just been like cemented super close now, right? Like if I want, like we are also like seeing on Twitter, like people are like non-technical conventional people are now pushing products, making good MRR and like good ARRs, and like they are maintaining code, right? Like so yeah, and tying this back into the job market thing, like yeah, I think be technical, right? Like you have to be technical. That's kind of become like one of a, like you can be as
Default
idealistic as,
skills basically, like writing, reading, walking. This should be something like a inevident skill that you must possess if you want to grow in any field or role.
absolutely, absolutely, right? Like, even, and this is like, if I just broadly think across different departments, right? Like, for example, marketing. I can imagine like maybe 4 years back, you could get hired in marketing just because you were very good at like the copywriting, right? I'm pretty sure there are jobs out there which is probably still hiring for that, but are they hiring as much as like 2,000 people to now like probably 20 people now, right? So what I'm coming at is like, okay, if you are a marketer and you think you are non-technical, no, you still need to understand like, okay, how can I ship like a good growth campaign, make a website for it? How can I use AI generated like videos and assets to like make my everyday tweeting better or like posts better? How can I work with like a email newsletter which we are giving to better identify from the data that this one got more clicks, and put it in a MCP, put in something and like try to get a story like what really worked for you versus did not, right? Like so I think calling yourself non-technical at this point of time would be just like doing yourself a bit of injustice, and also just like is not what market really wants, right? Like so gotta just like keep up.
And a lot of things, like even in, let's say, sales, you could possibly automate your whole workflow with AI tools like Cursor. uh, you can do a lot of prospecting, lead generation, a lot of things that you would have usually done manually can be automated, by self.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
in 2027, what does a 5-person company look like? I think it's possible. So do you?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I think like the first I would also like just be like, okay, what company are we talking about? Are we talking about a company which is like good enough to sustain these five people and like making good enough and like you know like what is like a company, right? Because right now if I incorporate a LLC and then that's a company too, and I might not even look at it for a year, right? Like so, I think one question is that like okay, what kind of company are we talking about? I personally feel like yes, you can be a 5-person team, build a product, get like good revenue on it, and just keep yourself like working on it. And you probably wouldn't need to expand the team and a lot of those things, and you will probably be okay to do. But at the same time, like if you wanna be like the I don't know the next unicorn and like you wanna achieve like give to enterprises, you want to be like the product leader of a particular category. I personally don't think a 5% extremely good 5% team might be able to do it. What I'm coming at is like just with AI, I don't think it fixes that problem, right? You still need enough smart people in the room. The world is too complicated to just have like a problem statement written in a prompt, right? Like there can't be a possible prompt which is so detailed and has enough world understanding, enough your company understanding, context understanding, that this prompt gives you an answer which accounts for every single detail, right? Like the world is still incredibly complex, so right, uh, we still need a lot more people. And the whole fact that we see the frontier labs, we see cursor, we see all of these AI tools have a careers page which has active listings says something, right? Like these companies are also like, hey, we still need you. It's not that we don't need you. It's again like a different requirement in a different perspective. We need a different kind of like outlook to the problem. But it's not to say that now we don't need a person, right? Like maybe at very distant point in the future that could be a possibility. But I don't think that's like I wouldn't have gotten hired like 3 months back if like they did not need a human person, right? Like similarly, I think uh, that's what I think. Like it's possible but not if you want to like grow extremely big and you want to like maintain everything as healthily.
Makes sense. If you have, if you had to rank, Mohit, some roles based on how much value they can get from AI, because engineering is one thing we all know very well, but there are a lot of other roles that get benefited from AI. So I'll give you 5 roles and I want you to rank them in categories 1 to 5. Growth, cover sales, marketing, design, a PM, and engineering.
And one is like who can incredibly benefit like the lot versus
Yeah.
okay.
So one is the highest benefit and fifth is the lowest one.
Hmm. Yeah, I think the ranking would be engineering gets like the most output. Then I would say uh, marketing, because I feel like a lot of media generation and all of these things can be really be better. Then I would go towards growth, right? Because growth I feel has like a weird intersection of creativity with technicality, but I still think there's a lot of creativity needed. And then probably designer, and then what was the last one you mentioned?
Project manager.
Project manager, yeah. And I would put that like along in like four or fifth, right? Because I do feel like the main bifurcation for my judgment was like what requires taste and judgment versus what does not require as much taste and judgment, right? Like so it would be my understanding that coding, again, it requires a lot of judgment, but at the same time could be a mathematically linear function, right? Like that, hey, this is the input, this is the output I want. As long as I'm able to get the output, we are good to go. Whereas with something like growth or design or something might involve a lot more personal judgment and human influence, in the sense that okay, like LLMs did suggest me to like do this viral campaign, but let me take a step back. Are there anything which
So
can backfire here?
basically, like these are the roles that are staying for longer.
Yeah.
Engineering, product management, marketing, these are going to by like reduce in terms of human count, but more quality output, right?
Yeah, again, even like with the ones which I said the jobs will be there, I feel like again AI assisted, right? Like I think AI assisted is the key tagline for
But
every single
still,
job
see,
title.
let's be fair about it. I think a person who was doing like 10 people team was doing something. Now, single person can do the 10 people job.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like as I said, like I'm not saying that uh, AI has not impacted anything in our industry, right? Like that would be super like not reading the room. It would be super unfair, right? Like all of that. All I'm saying is like it is just changing the kind of qualities expected from people. It is changing the kind of hiring which has been taking. It has been changing a lot of like expectations between a hiring manager and the employee now. But at the same time, like uh, it goes back to the book I was mentioning that we are living in a time where I will probably have to undergo a career pivot multiple times in my lifetime, and that is now something which I have to make peace with. And is it gonna be by relearning a new set of skill? Is it gonna be like making something of my own? Is it gonna be writing a book and learning how to paint? Could be, right? But I think a lot of mental shift has to take place in just being okay with that. This is not the time where I can work as in the same title for 20 years and just grow the career ladder. Probably not. I'll have to readapt multiple times during my life, and I should just make peace with it, just so that it
Makes
helps me
sense.
sleep better at night and be okay with something which might come tomorrow, which I don't know about.
Makes sense. We do have a lot of young audience just coming out of college. For a 20-year-old, if they come and ask you whether they should be learning to code, what would you tell them?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would still be asking them to learn how to code. I think it's like a lot of learning is not just like based on output, it's also like just fundamental understanding of how something works, right? Like so any learning endeavor I would personally think is not like a waste, right? Like I could ask them like, hey, if you are in like a urgent need of money and you need to get a job in 1 month, then probably I would say, okay, try not to learn coding, right? Like it might not like get you to a level where you can get job in a month. Then my advice would differ. But in general, like just because we have AI toolings, we have AI coding, all of those things does not mean we should stay away from learning and going back to the basics and learning the fundamentals, right? Like it always like can be possible that hopefully like if you are able to like go back to the basics, then you also have the opportunity to rebuild or rework something from the basics, right? Like you can be a 10x engineer further down the line when you know that AI told me like to do 10 things, but I know like this can be done in two things, right? Like so I think no learning is bad in that sense. At the same time, it just depends on like what is the objective you are looking for. uh, and just to like take a bit of time here, like if the objective is to just get a job and you don't have a particular loyalty to a particular department title, all of that, then I would ask you probably that, okay, if you're just that sort of a driven person, then probably don't spend time learning how to code. Try picking up skills on the different AI coding tools, try building out like side projects, try get attention from these people on different platforms, and then once you find you have enough knowledge and skill, make like the best pitch for a company, do work for them without getting paid, and then so that they wonder that, oh, if I give this person money, how much will they do if they're doing it without getting paid, right? Like so I think that is the advice. Like I still am like very, I personally read a bit still. I personally try to like understands the basics. Again, maybe it's through GPT that I understand, okay, how does a
Yeah,
plane work?
the mode
And there
has
are a lot,
changed. Right.
the mode has changed, but I think the learning still has to continue. It's not to replace, as you said, right? Like it's not to replace your brain itself. It's just supposed to be a good uh like a power up in a game.
What would you tell a 20-year-old self, a self teaching and who is not sure where he belongs yet? If you could go and talk to him.
Yeah, I think a lot of good advice is just simple advice, right? Like a lot of answers seems like fairly simple in that regard, and I think it's just sticking to the basics in the sense that it might feel like the world is running at a speed like 20x faster than you. It might feel overwhelming to see so many people doing so many things, so many people getting ahead at such an early age, all of that. But I think it's important to like take a step back and like remember that we all have different timelines, and it's okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's okay if you don't figure it out in the next 3 months, 6 months, but as long as you stick to the basics and you're able to like do just marginally better than yesterday, you are already on a good track, right? Now, being said that, some like practical advices I would give them is like, try finding a way to get access to these tools. It might not be the most affordable to you, it might not be like the most accessible to you. Try finding, like, I don't know, hackathons, scholarships, all of those things, whatever enables you to keep yourself updated with these tools, so that you have some idea, you have like some access to these and exposure to these tools to see how they can influence your productivity, right? It's no longer, like, I would say, a option, right? Like, it's very important that you understand how these tools work and how they can help you do things 10x better, right? Like, I have spoken to my cousins who were in that phase, and they were probably like using, still like learning from their college and trying to develop sites which are like, yes, I shipped a side project, it's on my GitHub and it's on my resume, but I go and check out the site and it's like the most basic site ever, which a LLM can like definitely one shot, right? Like, so is that the edge anymore? I really doubt, right? Like, try to think on a, from like the other side, that okay, what does a company want now, and then work your way backwards from there, that okay, how can I make my application look very adjacent to what this company wants? So I think that sort of like a first principled approach, and like trying to you know, make some way to use these tools and then understand from them, rather than just fully depending on like probably what your college is saying, or probably what you see your 10 people in the classroom saying, right? Like, there's a world out there now, thanks to internet, we can get access to the best Stanford courses on YouTube, right? Like, we can get access to the best people just on YouTube. That does not cost you anything except like some internet data costs, right? So I think that is still very useful. But just to double down, I think it's important to not feel disheartened, and like not to blame the world that why are you moving so fast where I can't. I think a lot of it is just like mental perseverance for yourself, that okay, it's okay, the world is changing, but I'll still find a way to fit in there. I think that mental shift itself is very important to keep yourself going and not be like demotivated if you see another 21-year-old already joining like a frontier AI lab and comparing yourself against it. And I think that holds true for like no matter what stage of career you are in, like there will be always someone doing better than you. But also there's like just a big substrata of people out there in the world who probably are not doing even that much better, right? Like, so just be mindful and then work your way up from there.
In a parallel timeline, Mohit, what do you think Mohit would be doing if not working at Cursor?
I think if I had not taken commerce, I would be an engineer at Cursor still. Like, not in a technical support role, but probably a engineer. But no, like, to be very honest, I think I still love everything I'm doing right now. Like, it gets me best of my both worlds, which is like having some sort of technical exposure without like feeling that I can break things. Like, this is like the perfect intersection for me. Parallelly, I think only other thing that I would probably enjoy doing is learning chess, like a lot of chess. I would probably be,
Like
yeah,
playing?
good at it. I love playing chess. I'm not good at it. I have like terrible rating on the chess.com website, but it's just that I love the game. I watch a lot of matches. I understand, analyze it, but I'm not great at it. But in a
You
parallel
should.
timeline, maybe after AGI, this is what I do.
Do you think chess playing with still AGI in place makes sense?
Oh, it doesn't. Like, already I can barely beat the bots, right? Like, forget AGI. Like, I can't. I don't think Magnus Carlsen can
I think
beat the world's
it
best model right now.
was the first game that AI was trained on chess.
I think it was around like 1995 when IBM did something, and then they had a match with Gary Kasparov, and they finally beat him. I could be wrong on the details here, but like it's somewhere along those lines where like computers were finally able to beat like the grandmasters of the world. And then there were still like some edge cases where the humans were winning. But I think since like Google Deep Blue, or like again fogging on the details there, but like since that Google computer thing has come, I don't think any humans stand a chance. But I still am like, I just love the game so much, and I would still like to believe that there's a lot of beauty remains in the game, even if like AGI or no AGI.
Makes sense. who do you hope is watching the episode or who wanted to be an audience of this?
I would really say like I would two categories there. One, like just people in the non-technical, again by qualification and degree, and not like skill and knowledge. So conventional non-technical people in that sense, if they are watching it and they feel like, we have no way to stand in this world, I think I hope like they feel after this chat that hey, you can, right? Like there is enough. The pie is super big, and we all have some bite to chew on here. And also I think another segment would be like, probably this is by a stake, but support people, right? I would love if like more support people start thinking of like just Cursor or like other tools out there which are really helpful in helping the end user, give them better answers, especially with like obnoxious banking platforms and all of those. Like they are the worst customers, I mean support users on the planet, right? Like they have the worst support. And I always think like, hey, if you only had access to some good MCPs, if you only had, again, with enough guardrails and safety in place, of course, like you would be able to give me so much, such a like better experience. So I think like that is another segment I would love to like, again, like use all these great MCPs and plugins, like again, RubixKube and all of those things, which kind of helps the support executive communicating to me give me a better answer. So I think like those two domains, if we are able to reach out to them and like even influence one of them to like think differently, I think we would have done our job at least.
Nice. Your message to my audience.
Oh, okay. I think the whole podcast was a big message to the audience. But again, I think the message at the core of it remains that be skeptical is fine. Like, have doubts, have like your uh, general apprehensions towards where the world is going, and that is all like fair. But at the same time, don't not sit on the like, just sit on the sidelines with your armchair thinking mode on and not really doing anything about it. Like if you like indulge with these tools, see where they are not doing well, again point it out, like put it out there on Twitter, put it out there for like the people to see it. But don't be on the side of like people who are not engaging with this change at all and like just protesting it, right? Like I feel like that is, I don't know, a bit counterintuitive. It's not the best practical approach to working with these people, right? All of, yeah. So I think that's what I would say. It's like, uh, again, I'm foggy on the details, but the classic story of I think what happened in the European region when they started saying that we should not let some other company bring their oil or something like that into this country because it takes away our lamps industry or whatever, right? And then there was a whole petition of like, okay, so let's do this, but also let's ban sun, right? Like there was someone who was like, let's, then why don't you just go ahead and say like we should block all the sunlight coming from this country because your lamp production is getting affected by it, right? Like so I think that argument still stands that okay, let's decide on where the guardrails should be, let's decide on what the safety things we should be putting in place. That's a good conversation. But to say that hey, let's just stop everything, let's not progress, like again, like we saw recently, OpenAI did solve a maths problem which was unsolved for like hundreds years, right? Who's to say that these AI tools might not be able to figure out a cure for like a disease which was previously unknown, right? We did see a report of someone creating a customized vaccine for their dog after like multiple LLM outputs, and it kind of worked in the favor of dog, right? Like so those are still like incredibly beautiful things which are coming from AI LLM outputs. So to just hinder progress without like uh, having a positive outlook towards it feels like a bit narrow-minded to me. So, but that would be my like, be open to it and all of that.
Makes sense. All right. Cursor has been conducting. I met you in one of the Cursor events. Any new events coming up where people can meet you?
Yeah, so I think Cursor, we have an incredible, like, very good ambassador program running by Ben Lang, who's extremely good at what he does. And we, I think, have around, like, I want to say around more than 200 ambassadors across the country who are conducting events every now and then. All you have to do is, like, just go to Cursor Ambassadors, and there's a website, and you can see the meetups happening, right? I'm not sure if there's anyone in the very near future happening in Bangalore. I know there's an event happening in Hyderabad today as we speak. But by the time this releases, it's probably already done. But again, check out Cursor Ambassadors if you feel like joining that and you really have something to offer. You want to host one in your city. You can reach out to them, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and we'll probably find a way on how you can do that. We also are like because we released Composer 2.5 around last week or a bit before that, and we have been seeing some very positive feedback around it. And just want to plug it in that if you are someone who's like feeling a bit more cost conscious and like still like unsure about, okay, what happens to my rate limits, everything, if I ask you to do this, try Composer 2.5. We have been hearing like some very incredible feedback from the community. It's already like on multiple benchmarks. It's doing extremely well. It's being compared almost at the same identical level as the best LLM models in the world out there. So do try it. And over the weekends we have like crazy, I think we have increased our usage limits by double. We also are giving like 90% off on Cursor SDKs on the weekends. So there are like constantly all these very good incentives and like promos for you to like just dip your toe in, see if it makes sense for you or not. There's also a referral program running for people who want have never used Cursor. You will find it on Twitter. Just type Cursor referral program, and you will find a lot of people sharing theirs. But if nothing, also feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and I'll try to find a way for you to like how you can use Cursor and make it easier for you.
Awesome. Where can people find you, Mohit?
Well, I'm active on Twitter. It's Mohito09, and also on LinkedIn, Mohiji and Cursor should do the job. Super active there. Say hi. I would love to help you guys out and like figure out if there's anything we can do together.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Mohit. It was wonderful talking to you. I learned a lot of insider insights from Cursor, a perspective of a non technical person owning engineering and tech support in a company which is growing exponentially and actually touching lives, changing the way we think about future.
Likewise, it was very uh, interesting. Like I have not done this before. I was super. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for having me. I think it was very well structured, and I really it also helped me like think more clearly about what I really think about certain things. So I think it was really a good experience for me too. Can't wait for this to come out.